welcome to the channel, viewers, as we go on with Covert Emotional Incest Fundamentals, using the plagues of the Egyptians as sort of a reference point for us all. This is Rev Dr. J.W. Morrison, theologist. We've done the blood, the bloodline. We've done the frogs, the double life. We're now looking at the gnats, which is flies, which are, guess what? Blood-sucking flies. Blood-sucking flies. And the Lord said to Moses, "Tell Aaron, raise your staff and strike the ground. The dust will turn into swarms of gnats throughout the land of Egypt." This is the finger of God, the magicians exclaimed to the Pharaoh, but Pharaoh's heart remained hard. This is what happens, see, it descends. These people can't come out of covert emotional incest. There's the double life, there's the blood-sucking fly. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Get up early in the morning and do what you got to do." And this is what the Lord says, "Let my people go and worship me." And the Lord did just as he said. A thick swarm of flies filled Pharaoh's palace, okay, and the houses of his officials. The whole land of Egypt was thrown into chaos by the flies. These people live in a world of chaos. That's how they live. They're used to it. Chaos isn't an issue for them. In fact, they can't recognize chaos. They let things get to the point where the chaos is upon them and it's too late. The problem is with that, when you're involved with them, you're watching the chaos and you can see the answers and they're not taking them. It's pretty bad. And Pharaoh called for Moses and Aaron. "All right, go ahead and offer sacrifices to your God," he said, but do it here in this land. So when this chaos is taking place, you will see elements of conscience, but the conscience doesn't hold. They just seem to fall back into the things that cause the chaos. This is what covert emotional incest does. It keeps retracting the people back to the things that are causing them to be unable to get somewhere in their relationships. And so these blood suckers become blood sucked. The only way you can overcome covert emotional incest, viewers, is by becoming aware of it and dealing with it where it's at. These people are sucking your emotions and your love and masculinity and femininity out of you. And the thing is, you can do the same to them. Remember in the first talk, they'll give you anything you want physically, sexually, etc., etc., as long as you're playing by the general rules of the game. But you won't get anything emotionally. And when you start drawing on them emotionally, when you start trying to suck the blood out of them, when they know that you're aware that they're not emotionally feeding you the way that they should be and you're onto it, guess what it causes inside them? Causes chaos. They get thrown into chaos because they're not used to having somebody that's able to discern what's going on, that's able to see what the problem is and want to deal with it. And so they'll try to deal with it, but because it's so foreign to them, because they're not used to an outsider being able to get close enough, being valuable enough for them to get close enough to see what's going on in the covert emotional incest, when they get a sense that they're recognizing it themselves, they get thrown into chaos. And you watch this with your own two eyes. There it is, chaos. Somebody has gotten past the boundaries. If you're a person of high value, you will get past the boundaries. But you have to be very high class value. You see, if they lose a A-grade supply in an intimate relationship, they'll settle for anything. They'll settle for frogs, flies. They don't care what they get after that, as long as they're getting their supply. Because there'll be elements of resentment and bitterness where they'll want to get back at you, even though you'll never be aware of it or care less about it. What happens? I don't care what happens after I'm gone, what they do. But they'll settle for rotten fruit on the ground. It's just how I've seen it. And they end up in chaos. Everything just turns to chaos, I'm telling you. Because the emotional waster, right, are not just wasting your emotions, they're wasting their own. Everything's just getting wasted. There's nothing profitable coming out of it. They're just consuming emotional supply. They're not building anything. They're not trying to develop anything. They're living a double life built off of the bloodline, the abused bloodlines, holding them captive. And everything just falls apart. It's just all chaos. It just turns to chaos. But guess what? Moses left Pharaoh's palace and pleaded with the Lord to remove all the flies. Get this away from me. They come to their senses, viewers. When the emotions are itching and scratching and being sucked back out, there's panic, there's chaos. And the Lord did as Moses asked and caused swarms of flies to disappear from Pharaoh, his officials and his people. Not a single fly remained, but Pharaoh again became stubborn. They just end up back in their stubbornness, viewers. They just go back into their stubbornness. Because if you confront the issue and they're going to give you an element of resolve, okay, they're going to come around a bit, well, you back off, right? You back off and everything goes back into the pattern. But there's still work in the covert emotional incest behind your back. You've been duped again. Because you've got to escape. This is the whole point. This shows you how you can waste time with these people. Because it all means well to them. It's all meaning well, but it's going nowhere. You've got to look at the person's life before you come along. What drove the men away? 9 times out of 10, it's the children. The woman has enabled the children to hate men. But she needs a certain amount of man. It's only a certain amount. So if you're not insecure and happy to just accept what she's willing to give, because she's the narcissist, whether she wants to admit it or not. They need weak-willed men that they can deceive and dupe because they're living a duplicitous life. They're sucking the emotions and everything out of you and throwing it down the drain to their mummified children and themselves. But if they can't delete you, if they can't persuade you, if they can't condition you, because believe me, they're trying, they're bunging on all the goodies, then things are going to start to crumble. And you'll start to see chaos. You'll start to be attacked. And that's just how it works. Now, if at this point you think there's still hope, if you think this is just part of the teething, part of the relationship, you'll push on. But the next plague's the livestock. And the Lord did just as he said. The next morning, all the livestock of the Egyptians died. Now this is where everybody starts to lose. Right? things just aren't going to go right now. Now, livestock speaks of things that we idolize. Okay? This is what was happening here. Things were being idolized. And cows, as in some countries today, you can't, if you're driving along and a cow is standing in the middle of the road, you have to wait till that cow moves. They're sacred. Now, some things for people that are sacred are sex. You might wake up to this person and go, no, I don't want to see you. This ain't working out the way that I want it to. And you go, I don't want to see you. Okay? Or it could be drugs. They run out of money. Or the kids are trying, or the children, adult children are trying to get drugs off them. Or they are depending on them for drugs and there are none. Could be alcohol. Could be an illness from the lifestyle. Okay? But the Lord said, I will strike all livestock, your horses, donkeys, camels, cattle, sheep and goats with a deadly plague. And the Lord will again make a distinction between the livestock of the Israelites and that of the Egyptians. So while they're crashing, and this is what freaks them out. While they're crashing to the ground and in chaos and living a double life and allowing the bloodline to abuse them, you're just going along as per usual. Your lives, you are distinct from what's happening to them. And this is the difference between the disingenuine and the genuine. Covert emotional incest undermines everything that these people have because they don't develop, they don't grow, they stay stuck in their bond. They stay stuck in their loyalty bind, and anything outside of that's disloyalty, and that's just going to cause confusion and loss and plagues. Their mind is plagued. They're trying to work out, when am I going to get my drugs? I've got to go to work to pay the rent. I've got to go, oh God, I've got to get the money for he hasn't done, I've got a loan. Oh no, why are they, I better give him, oh now I've got nothing. And you're just watching this. But the Lord will distinguish between the livestock of the Israelites and that of the Egyptians. Not a single one of the Israel animals will die. The Lord has already set the time for the plague to begin. He has declared that he will strike the land tomorrow. And you can tell these people, come on, you're abusing me. And you're watching the chaos, you're watching the blood-sucking, you're watching all of this. They're completely self-unaware. They have no awareness of where you're at psychologically because they have no awareness of where they're at psychologically. They're just chasing their habits and their needs. They're trying to manage themselves, their adult children, their rent, their relationship, and none of it's going right. They get little runs. And the covert emotional incest starts to wreck everything. It's well into wrecking everything now. And the Lord did as he said. The next morning all the livestock of the Egyptians died, but the Israelites didn't lose a single animal. And I've seen these women coming here, their life's going to absolute crap. They're medicating, they're drugging, they're drinking, they're getting promiscuous with their sex. They don't think you know. They're starting to look outside the relationship. They're grooming themselves with other people. They're whinging and bitching about the relation. You're just watching, I'm just watching it going there. And Pharaoh sent his officials to investigate flying monkeys. And they discovered that the Israelites had not lost a single animal. How can Jason be still moving forward and accomplishing? I don't understand. I can't. But even so, Pharaoh's heart remained stubborn, and he still refused to get on with a relationship that meant anything. They want to keep you bound, but they will not have a proper relationship. Everything can be crashing down around them. They can be struggling and losing a lot and wondering, why isn't this happening to you? Why is this only happening to me? Because everything's relative to your genuineness in the relationship. You don't just come into somebody's life and bung on a half effort. It's not going to work. There's consequences. Consequences that people aren't willing to talk about. Things go bad for people that are half-hearted. Their own behaviour, but it turns against them. These people will defame you. They'll demoralise you. They'll watch their They'll watch their family members trying to bring you down. They don't know what to do because they're in a mummified state. They're psychologically dead in terms of the covert emotional incest side of their life. They're paralysed. They don't know how to deal with it because they'll upset so-and-so and this and no and all this and that. They're covered in frogs, flies. Their things are starting to crash down around them. There's chaos between them. This is only because you're there. Right? They can't work out why this is happening. And it's all because they are not coming into the relationship the way that they need to. And this just doesn't happen to covert emotional incest people either. It happens to all people that want to mess with people's lives. It's not a game. It's real. Rev Dr. J.W. Morrison, theologist. See you in Talk 5. Bye for now.